to The Lead Word. This is your host, Chad Bauman. With me, as always, my partner, Trey Daubert. Today, we have a special guest who's going to talk some NBA with us and maybe some NCAA basketball. It's Tory Muhammed. It's a guy I went to high school with. Tory, go ahead and introduce yourself to the show.
Hey, my name's Tory. I like sports.
All right. Trey, what's going on?
Not much, Chad. Let's get started. How about it? All right, so I have one question to start out with. Tory, you can answer this. Chad, you can jump in. Sometimes reputation supersedes the reality. McDonald's is just this revered brand. People think it's the best fast food. But in reality, it has a Shamrock Shake and the rest is trash. Everyone with taste buds knows that Chick-fil-A is way better. You can tell me how great of an actor Johnny Depp is, but all he does is make pirate movies. He doesn't make any other good movies.
I'm not impressed by your performance.
So we enter 2019, and people still call LeBron James the best basketball player in the world. How can you be the best basketball player in the world when you can't make the playoffs? I want to know that. You can't call him the best basketball player anymore.
You want to answer that one first, Chad?
No, you go ahead, Tory. You're a special guest. You go ahead and jump in.
Alright, LeBron's a great player. A lot of people look up to him. I think he's a great athlete, especially off the court. Does a lot for the community. And like you said, I think his reputation at the moment is holding him up. What is he, 35? 35 right now?
Yeah, I think he's 34, 35, right?
MJ, I think he was going for his 5th or 6th chip. So, and Kobe himself, he was on his way out the door, but he still managed to drag the Lakers to the playoffs. So, with a worse supporting cast, I believe. So, when we call him the greatest of all time, it's kind of hard to say he's the best player, the greatest. If you can't get, a solid supporting cast, you got, leadership, you're challenging the leadership of Luke Walton, and you're doing all these things, you're making all this noise with Clutch Sports and Anthony Davis trades, and, we see the triple-doubles, we see the numbers, but what people don't see is the context and how he affects his own team. And I don't think you call him the greatest anymore. You got to give it to the top spot. You got to give the top spot to the kids. Giannis, he's playing amazing. He's playing great. Arguably the MVP. You got Harden. Harden, he single-handedly kept the Rockets afloat. LeBron couldn't do that with the Lakers. So, that's something that people have to, I think, look at when if you're still calling him the greatest. I don't see that effect anymore. So, that's my 2 cents on it.
All right, yeah, that is certainly interesting points. My thing is when you say the greatest, do you mean, are we talking about legacy necessarily, or are we just talking about pure basketball ability? Because I don't think the Lakers' playoff struggles may have anything to do with LeBron's basketball ability. He's still going out and putting up buckets. I think they screwed themselves when they were starting to talk about the Anthony Davis trade, which Tory mentioned, They started talking about Anthony Davis, then you got LeBron sitting on the bench by himself. They got a troubled locker room. Obviously, you talk about personality types, we know what type of personality Michael Jordan was. He's out there, his Hall of Fame speech was like a vendetta speech, a revenge speech. Everybody who wronged him in the past. You look at Kobe. Kobe was the guy who was taking the last shot whether or not he was triple teamed or not. LeBron's never been that kind of personality type. There's all kinds of debate on LeBron holding together a locker room. That's why Kyrie left. Left Cleveland because he wanted to run the locker room. Then Kyrie comes out this year and talks about how hard it is to run the locker room and calling LeBron up at 2 a.m. saying, "Hey man, I didn't get it then." So I mean, are we talking about just legacy, or are we talking about basketball ability? Because I don't think I think pure basketball ability, yeah, you can make the argument that LeBron is still, if not top 3, the best player in the league. He's 35 and it still looks effortless.
All right, you guys can both join in again. But my belief is that Kevin Durant has always been, now, past tense, present tense, future tense, has always been better than LeBron. I don't understand how many times this guy has to beat LeBron on and off the floor before we recognize that he's better than LeBron, and has always been better than LeBron. The past 2 years, this guy has played LeBron in the playoffs, has beaten him. This year, he's going to win again. LeBron's not in the playoffs. LeBron has changed locations multiple times, has never won as much as he should have. Every time Kevin Durant has been on the Golden State Warriors, they have won. The only reason he never won with the Thunder as much as he should have is because Russell Westbrook's a cancer. You put Durant on any other situation, he probably wins another title. LeBron has always had the chips stacked in his favor, and he's never won as much as he should have. Look at the Miami team. They lost to the Mavericks, who were Dirk Nowitzki and a bunch of parts. They lost to the Spurs in the finals when Tim Duncan was 800 years old, and all they had was Tony Parker, who's washed up.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
He constantly has chips in his favor. He chose to go to the Lakers. Nobody made him go to the Lakers. He could have picked any other team. He could have went to Philly if he wanted to. He could have went to any other team. He chose the Lakers, and he's not in the playoffs. That's not acceptable. It's really not.
This is what I believe. Now, I always felt LeBron. I think his best fit, and what I always thought best fit was the Clippers. I'll put that out there first. His best fit was always the Clippers in my mind. When they had Tobias Harris, Danilo Gallinari, just Doc Rivers, that would have been a perfect team for him. A bunch of veterans, had Lou Williams. That team would have been dangerous with LeBron. That was always my opinion. He chose to go to the Lakers. I never thought that was a great fit. Too much development. I never thought they'd make the playoffs with the signings they made. They had Lance Stevenson. It was just a bunch of it was a joke. We all knew as soon as he signed to the Lakers, they were realistically, if you watch basketball, that was a business decision, not a pure basketball decision. But that was Magic's move. Now KD being better than LeBron, that's always tough for me. That's a tough one. I have to disagree with you on that one. Simply for the fact that KD himself is not a leader. Now, people put the blame on Westbrook. I'm not a Westbrook fanatic, but he has a leader mentality. Now, KD, basketball skill wise, he's one of the best. He's one of the best to ever play. No doubt about that. But the problem is he crumbles as well. And I think Golden State was the perfect scenario for him, not only to build his confidence, to move on to the next team, to become a leader if he wants to do that. But he's someone who can take the driver's seat when asked, or he can be the passenger. LeBron has always been the leader from day one. I'll give him that much. His leadership skills definitely are in question. He's tried to be a great leader. I don't think his style of leadership is the best style of leadership. Like you said, with the way he runs locker rooms, the way he tried to get Spoelstra fired, things like that. Too many reports of him getting coaches fired, David Blatt, and having too much control. And he wants that, and some people give it to him. So I think that's the difference maker. And KD, he's just KD is KD, and I love his game, but I don't think he's better. I don't think he's better than LeBron. So I'm going to have to disagree on that one.
I mean, I think it's interesting that, you're talking about LeBron missing the playoffs and everything like that, which I agree. I understand that, I should say. But at the same time, you're saying that when KD was on the Thunder, he gets a pass for getting bounced out of the playoffs, even though he was playing with a guy who's a top 5, if not a top 10 player in the league.
Oh, I'd never say that. KD does not. KD didn't get a pass. They definitely didn't live up to the expectations. A bunch of that blame goes around. That's why that's why I said I also don't think KD is any better, and that's why I say he lacks leadership skills. Because he definitely takes blame. He takes a lot of blame for that. Him, Scott Brooks, and Russell Westbrook can all take blame for not living up to the expectations and the talent that they had.
Right. Well, I was speaking more particular with what Trey said in regards to KD, but my thing is I think when it comes to guys in the locker room, we kind of mentioned leadership. You're always going to have you're going to have Batmans and you're going to have Robin. I think KD's Robin. If you look at the Golden State locker room, Batman is Steph Curry. He's the leader in that locker room. Right now, the problem with LeBron is he's trying to be Batman, and Robin don't like his ass right now. Basically, nobody on the team likes LeBron right now. And that I think that's clearly evident. But I don't think you can't bring up LeBron missing the playoffs and say he's the greatest player of all time, and then avoid the fact that KD never lived up to playoff expectations before he was playing with an Olympic basketball team, basically. In Clay, Draymond, and Steph.
I don't think that's a fair argument, Chad, because nobody holds LeBron's hand when he says, "Oh, well, he never won the first 7 years in Cleveland." Well, Durant was in Oklahoma City the first 7 years, so he's basically on the same timeline that LeBron went to Miami, Durant went to Golden State. What's the difference? The only difference is Durant's winning a hell of a lot more. And I think that your leadership thing, that goes back to, all right, Durant knows who he is. He wants to pair it with Steph Curry. LeBron thinks he's this great leader, but he never puts a good team together. Every single year he signed in JaVale McGee's and Lance Stevenson's. He's the worst GM in sports. He got J.R. Smith too much money and Tristan Thompson too much money. He puts together the worst teams possible. To me, that's another negative on LeBron. That's his fault. Nobody forced him to go to the Lakers. Nobody forced him to give money to J.R. Smith. Nobody forced him to sign Lance Stevenson.
Well, I'm just saying the differences between KD going to Miami and KD going to Golden State, they're different. Like I said,
Not really.
They are different. Steph Curry is going to be a Hall of Famer.
So is Dwayne Wade.
Okay. Klay Thompson's going to be a Hall of Famer.
So is Chris Bosh.
I think that's debatable.
Whoa. Chris Bosh is definitely a Hall of Famer. Without Chris Bosh, they definitely don't win those chips.
I still think it's debatable.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Man. I mean, I'll say this. In my opinion, if I can chime in. KD chose to go to a 73. What was their record? What, 70 what? 73-9?
Yeah,
73
wins.
73 win team right after he got bounced from the playoffs. Now the difference is, the psychology of the move. You don't go to the team that you've been struggling, to beat. You don't do that. That's a no in any sport. You don't do that. Like, so it would be the definition of LeBron going to the Celtics. With Paul Pierce and KG after they beat him. But he went to the Heat. Who were not a playoff team at the time. They were not a contender. And he did influence Chris Bosh to come. But KD chose to go to the Warriors, who did not need him. It was a team that was, that were going to make it. They were going to be a contender with or without him. Now, we don't know if they would have won the following year, but with him, they did, and they had an easy road. So, I get the timelines, but you know, if it came down to picking between the two, KD and LeBron, I just think, you know, LeBron always does. LeBron will always have that mental edge over KD when he's not surrounded by the talent that he had. It's just we see it. The eye test shows it. KD easily has all that talent to lean back on. I just don't see it as the same. I can't see that.
He said what I was trying to say, basically.
All right, Chad, let's move on to the next topic here, because we can talk about that one all day.
Yeah.
Tory, you're a Celtics fan, as I hear correctly?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's my team, man. Bleed green.
All right. Same with me. I'm also a Celtics fan. And I just want to bring this up. I've always believed the NBA regular season, it's maybe 10% more important than preseason football. Like, I just don't care. The Warriors lost by 35 to the Mavericks the other day. Doesn't mean a thing. All these games, as long as you make the playoffs, I really don't care.
Playoffs?
The seeding means nothing to me. In my eyes, I don't see why the Celtics don't win the East. I could care less what seed they are. They're the most talented team. They have some problems. I think Terry Rozier should be cut from the rotation. I think Aaron Baines is a bigger deal than what we realize. There's some nuance to it. I think Gordon Hayward needs to play well. There's nuance to it. But I don't see any reason why we should panic over the record. I don't think it means anything.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Many people that aren't Celtics fans, I'm not a biased person. I don't know if Chad told you, I'm not really a biased person. I'm a realist. I like to call myself a realist. And like you, I also believe that it's rare. I think it also is rare that you find a team like the Celtics that you can say seeding doesn't matter. Because the record doesn't tell how much talent that is on that team. And when playoff time comes, like you said, that's when it's time to do work. And like we saw last season, we weren't expected without Kyrie and Gordon to go that far. But the young players blossomed and they shined and they dug down. They did what they were supposed to do. They all did their jobs and exceeded expectations. If we count off on hand, I think we have most of our team could be starters on another team. Most of our team can start anywhere. Even if they're not a star, they can start. Aaron Baines, I think, is a big deal. When he went down, we lost a lot of winnable games. Helps with the interior defense, and he's tremendous. He does all the little things, and people laugh about it. My friends are Sixers fans, they laugh about it. But I told them, I said, Aaron Baines always gives Joel Embiid fit, even if Joel puts up 40 points. He's a huge difference maker when it comes to just standing ground, because we know Tice can't stand ground with Embiid. It's like it's like a putting a pillow in front of him. So I love Tice too. Dude is great, he balls out. But yeah, man, got so much potential. And I love being an underdog. So it's good. The position they're in is actually good, because at the end of the day, we get to upset the other team. So.
Okay, so I gotta ask, because Trey did mention the Warriors losing by 35 the other night. Is it a little bit different situations, right? Because you have Boston, and I get where y'all are coming from with regular season doesn't it's not that important in the NBA because there's so many games and whatnot. But at the end of the day, Golden State, yeah, they lost by 35. But their locker room is calm. You're not hearing all this crazy stuff coming out of the locker room. We got all these problems that we're hearing about with the Celtics, while they're in the midst of this losing streak. You got Kyrie Irving calling out the young players on the team, like, these guys, they don't, they're young, they're not getting it, that kind of thing. And I think, who is it? I want to say it was was it Marcus Smart that kind of came back and was like, hey, look, you were injured last year, and we still made it. We still made a deep playoff run without you. So kind of like who's the real problem here, kind of thing. That doesn't affect you at all going into the playoffs, knowing that they're kind of taking this losing streak into the playoffs.
The confusing thing right now is it's like I said, it's something I haven't seen before that I can say in recent time, like so much talent doesn't click. Does it worry me? I mean, yeah, it worries me if I'm being realistic. Yeah, it definitely worries me. I can't say as a fan, I hope the best. But as you can see, hopefully I feel Brad Stevens or Kyrie, and mainly I do put a lot of it on Kyrie. If he can flip the switch and decide, hey, look, I would choose when to defer to his teammates and choose his spots like he did in the blowout win against Golden State. If he can do that, I think we can easily get to the chip. And I say easily, I don't mean that lightly. If he can choose to do that, and he can be that leader, then I feel like we can make it. Does it worry me? Yeah, yeah, it does. But you know what? It's all a part of the game, and hopefully they can get it together.
I just think a lot of it's overblown. A lot of it's media driven. Like these media quotes that come out, and the Celtics are better without Kyrie. They're not.
They are who we thought they were.
They're just not. The on-off numbers show that they're not. They almost have too many guys. They got to work Gordon Hayward back in. Too many minutes to go around. Nobody really gets a groove. I think once they shrink the rotation in the playoffs, they'll be fine. Keep everybody healthy. I don't like. They went to the conference finals 7 games without Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. I know that the rest of the East is better. The Bucks are better. The Sixers are better. The Raptors are better, but I just don't understand how the Celtics aren't the favorites, and I don't care what the seed is. I just really don't.
Now, briefly kind of like alluded to this a little bit earlier. We were talking about KD and the difference between him and LeBron. But, the NBA is a big confidence game. You look at confidence in sports, it's a game changer. You look at baseball, you got a guy who goes 0 for like 50 in his last, 10 games or whatever. That's a crazy stat, but, that would never happen. And he's in a slump. But then he gets one hit and it changes his entire season around. The same thing is true in basketball, man. If you start missing, that hoop starts to get smaller and smaller. But then you get one shot and, it starts to get bigger and bigger. The Celtics, them dropping these games so close to the playoffs, does that worry you that, it's going to build the other team's confidence while it's going to be hurting the Celtics' confidence so close to the playoffs?
I mean, I think about it like this. Like I said, it's a switch. It's a switch that I believe the team can flip on. And Kyrie knows what time it is when playoff time comes. Marcus Smart's been there before. Jaylen Brown has experience now. Jason Tatum, he's ready. These kids are battle tested. These dudes, all of them, they're all battle tested. They all know what time it is. You either do your job or you go home.
If you ain't first, you're last.
So, regular season, like I said, these guys, I'm a little bit worried. One side of me is worried, but the other side knows these guys know, what they're doing. I'm not confident as Trey is. I'm not that confident. I like his positivity. But I think those are things you have, you keep an ear on. But at the end of the day, I think these guys do know what they're doing. So they got it.
Going 4-0 in the preseason doesn't build confidence in the regular season in the NFL, Chad. Just don't think it matters.
So that's true. The Lions did go 4-0. The year they went 0-16, they went 4-0 in the preseason. So yes, that is true.
All right, let's go. Last topic here I have, or maybe 2 more topics, but this one. So Tory, I was dating this girl in high school, and for the first 3 months, she fooled me. I thought she was the greatest thing ever. I thought she was super nice. Got me gifts once in a while. But then after like month 4, 5, 6, she just turned out to be the devil. She just wasn't the person who I saw the first 3 months. I was fooled. I was manipulated. So 2 months ago, Russell Westbrook was being a nice teammate. He was passing the ball. Paul George was an MVP candidate. The Thunder were winning games. Pre-All-Star break, Russell Westbrook was a plus 8.8 on the floor per 100 possessions. The Thunder were 19-11 in December and January. Then we saw who Russell Westbrook really is. He turned it back into the devil. Since the All-Star break, he's a negative 1.3 points per 100 possessions when he's on the floor. They're being outscored when he's on the floor. And in February and March, they are 11-13. Why? He's shooting the ball more, and he's going back into his tunnel vision Russell Westbrook mode. I think he's the biggest cancer in the league, and right now they're an 8 seed and going to get swept in the playoffs again. Tell me why you should defend Russell Westbrook or don't defend Russell Westbrook, because I can't stand the guy. He's the most overrated player in the league.
I think, the first thing about Russ is I respect his passion. I respect his passion for the game. That's the first thing. Dude has, amazing charisma. He keeps it, he puts everything out there. So if you want a player that puts everything out there, he's the man. Now, when it comes to, like you said, you're throwing out all the stats, and I've seen it. I think most of that comes from also, I think Paul George's injury, because Paul George hasn't been the same MVP for him either. He actually came out and said that he's dealing with a shoulder injury. And so I think he's also taking the load off of Paul George. So that's a huge load because, Paul George putting up, amazing numbers. Almost up there with James Harden to a degree for a time period. And he's also he's leading in 3-point makes. So I think all that wear and tear, on the shoulder, I think that also affected Westbrook's decision to start, shooting more. Because who else does he have to lean back on? Outside of Steven Adams, he's not a go-to post player offensively. So then you got Dennis Schroeder coming off the bench. You got Terrence Ferguson. And then, on the wing, you got Patrick Patterson. So there's really nobody else outside of Paul George is really going to get their shot on their own, outside of, Dennis Schroeder and PG. So he actually has to take that load on his shoulders. I don't think he chose to say, I'm going to come here and I'm just going to jack up all these shots, like he did in the past, just because he wanted to. I think it's just more of what he has to do. Dude is a great basketball player. I do believe that he does get tunnel vision. I do believe that the coach should rein him in more, but that's the system they run. As to why, I don't know. But I also blame that on the coaching as well, because you wouldn't let it get this far. You wouldn't let it get this bad. Dude's an amazing player, but I also think he needs to. Sometimes his basketball IQ does lack, especially when it comes to the in the big moments, taking uncontested or bad shots. But that's what also makes great players. It makes great players. It makes for great moments. You can love him or hate him, but Russ is Russ, and you kind of just gotta live with it. Unless you're going to challenge who he is, unless the coach is going to challenge who he is and how he plays, then he's always going to play the same. So that's all I got on that one.
I think here I think Tory's, he hit it right on the head. I think Russell Westbrook, is going back to, his hero ball ways because, Paul George hasn't been there. I think, they are trying to get Paul George healthy for the playoffs, because that's where their problem's been, the last 2 or 3 years with the Thunder since Kevin Durant left. Westbrook trying to do it all in the playoffs, and it didn't work. Before they got Paul George, obviously there was some issues they were working out last year, but if they can get back to the basketball we were seeing in the beginning of the season, which I don't think there's any reason why they can't. If we can expect Boston to turn the switch on in the playoffs, I don't see any reason why we can't expect, the Thunder to do the same. They're not as talented as Boston, I don't think. But, they still have 2 great players in Paul George and Westbrook. If they can both be healthy to start the playoffs, I don't think there's any reason to automatically assume they're, bounced out in the first round.
All right, let's ask this question then. What's your expectation for this year? Because in my eyes, if Russell Westbrook, for the 3rd straight year in a row, gets bounced out in the first round, I mean, how many times can we just defend this guy? He lost in the first round to Houston. Then last year with Paul George, he lost in the first round to Utah, and Utah's really not that good. If he gets bounced out in the first round for a third straight year, at some point, aren't we just going to say, yeah, he's overrated. Yeah, he's selfish. Yeah, he's not reliable. Yeah, he crumbles. At some point, aren't those things valid? You can't get knocked out of the first round of the playoffs 3 straight years.
I think, I think at this point, the team they have, it's hard to say because if Paul George is healthy, then I definitely think I think you have a valid claim, and that's going to be the conversation. If it happens again, I think that's it. I think that's all we got. He's shooting 65% or something like that from the free throw line. His shot has slumped this year tremendously. I think that's something to look at. I don't know if he's dealing with injury, but I don't think he is. I think it's all mental. If any year was the year to upset the Warriors or the team, they definitely have talent. Dennis Schroeder, I don't think we should sleep on him at all. I think it's going to be an X factor. And also Steven Adams, how he commands the boards and defends, is great. His post game is okay. It's not amazing. It's solid enough, but his moneymaker is defense. So, I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, it kind of all comes down to the leader, and that's Westbrook. So, if he can't at least get to the second round and get bounced again, it's kind of hard. But I can't fault them for losing to the Warriors. But at the same time, I can. When you have a defensive player of the year on your team and Westbrook is also playing amazing defense, I actually think they have the formula to beat the Warriors. With a great big in Adams and 2 great defensive players in Westbrook and PG, they actually have the necessary tools to beat them. But it's like I said, it's all on Westbrook and how he wants to control the team. So yeah, I'm gonna have to agree on that one. It's definitely on his shoulders.
All right. I actually kind of want to use this to segue into, I don't know what else Trey has, but this is a point that I kind of want to bring up. We're talking about Westbrook. He's a guy known for playing hero ball. There's another guy right now in the West who's basically shouldering all of the load for his team. You have James Harden with the Rockets right now, just playing ridiculous basketball. It feels like he's been putting up 40 points every night, but, he's averaging like 33 or 34 right now, I think, right? So you have him. How far are the Rockets going to go in the playoffs, considering, it's every night, every win is just taking a Herculean effort from, James Harden? Do they have the team behind him to make the run that they made last year, considering it feels like James Harden is all you're hearing about from the Rockets organization right now?
Help me! Help me!
I think Kobe said it best. You can't win a championship that way. He commented on that, on James Harden. He said what he's doing is amazing. But he said that's not the way to win a championship. It's just, his usage rate, I think, is like one of the highest ever. It's not sustainable. It's really not sustainable. Physically, it's not sustainable. But you know what? The thing with James Harden is, even if he didn't have a high usage rate, for some reason he always crumbles. So we can't constantly use that as an excuse either. Because it's not a physical thing with James Harden; it's a mental thing. So we see in the playoffs, he's averaging, he's averaging what he's averaging, 30 points, 25 points, but his percentages dip tremendously come playoff time. They dip tremendously. Now, we can either mark it up to physical exhaustion, or we can also mark it up to, mark it down to, he just can't get it done. Because there have been times where the games are close, and he's still not able to close. So, you can't be tired. You can, all of a sudden now you're tired once the 40-minute mark hits, and the game is over, and now all of a sudden, I was tired. Like, no, you can't use that excuse every time. The team knows what it's doing. Like, so that's why you have Chris Paul now. And I don't think it's possible to win the championship with the way he's playing. But at the same time, too, I think when there are times to close, if they can close the game, then if you're going to defer to somebody else, defer to someone else. But it was possible for them to beat the Warriors last year. They missed 27 threes in a row. I watched that game. It was a choice. It was a choice to take that many threes. As a leader, okay, well, I can drive the ball. I saw them pass up open layups for 3-pointers. So, that's a choice. So, I don't know how far they can get with the style he plays, but I also seen that, he's able to almost win games with that style as well. So, closing is a whole different, he just has to close. That's really it.
I think there's a big difference, Chad, between Harden and Westbrook. The difference is Harden can actually shoot, and Westbrook can't. Westbrook can't even shoot free throws right now. I think it's a big difference. And the Rockets can actually win. The Rockets have pushed the Warriors to 7 games in the playoffs. If they don't miss all those threes in Game 7, they probably beat the Warriors. They're the only team, in my opinion, that can beat the Warriors in the West. So I'm not really concerned about, is his playing style unsustainable? Yes. But come playoff time, can they change it up and say, hey, put the ball in Chris Paul's hands a little bit more? I don't see why that's not reasonable.
Trey, did you have anything else?
Yeah, one quick thing, and then we can wrap this up. Let's hear your opinion on Zion. How good is he? Short and sweet. How good is he? What's your expectation when he comes to the NBA?
Physical specimen. Tremendous upside. I think if he keeps the same attitude he kept against UCF with shooting threes, I think he'd be an amazing player. And as of right now, he has a lot of work to do. Probably but definitely a 17 and at least 17 and 8 player. Definitely coming into the league. So I'll say that. I'll leave it at that.
Can we just say for a second, Zion Williamson might be literally the most physically gifted athlete ever.
He's like Bo Jackson, right?
He's like 6'7", like 250 pounds, and he probably runs a 4.5 40.
He's probably like 270, 260.
Yeah, I think he's a little heavier than that even. He might be like 280.
Yeah, he might be like 2. I think I'm gonna give him like 275.
Still, and he's insane. And the fact that that was kind of the thing. You were like, oh, he's gonna be a attack the rim kind of guy in the NBA and in college. Now he's out there shooting threes. Like, what do you do?
Long bodies. That's about it. Long defenders. How to get around them. Like, he did a good job against Taco last night on the N1, but, most times than not, he had a huge problem with Rui Hachimura and a couple other teams, too, when it came to long arms. So, increasing that mid-range game, I think that's something he needs to work on off the dribble. Because in the NBA, you're not always going to be able to, even with the new, weak interior defense that, because of lack of centers, when you get a big body in your face, I think he's going to struggle with that a little bit sometimes.
I think he's the best draft prospect since Durant. I think he's unbelievable. I just don't understand how anyone couldn't. I think he's like. I know this is before my time, but I think he could be a better version of Charles Barkley. I think he's that good.
No, I was about to say, I was comparing him. I see him, coming to the league as Blake Griffin. When Blake Griffin came in, dunking on people's heads, posters all over the place. I just see him as a Blake Griffin, less handles. Right now, it also depends on how he wants to approach the game. I don't see him as a killer. a killer instinct or anything like that. But I think he's a really good player, talented player. But we'll see.
All right, one last thing before we go. Tory, who's your Final Four?
My Final Four, man, I got Gonzaga. I want to say Duke, but they look shaky. I want to go with Tennessee. It's tough. I had a couple brackets, so I'm trying to actually pull up more now. Who do you have going?
So I got Michigan State, Texas Tech, Purdue, and North Carolina.
I had Duke, Florida State, Tennessee, and North Carolina. That's what I had. My bracket's a mess right now. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, the way Duke's playing, I'll take Duke. I'll take Duke. I'm sticking with Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga's gonna win it all, though. That's my opinion. That kid, Hachimura, he's ridiculous. I'm actually having trouble bringing up my brackets on my Wi-Fi. That's good. But yeah, I got Gonzaga winning it all.
All right. Good
Trey,
stuff today,
anything else?
Tory. No, that's it for me. Good stuff today.
All right, Tory. Thanks for being on the show. It's great talking to you again. Haven't really talked to you outside of Facebook since high school, so good talking to you.
Appreciate it, man. But, thank you guys for having me. Nice meeting you, Trey. Bleed green. Keep that positivity going. We need that energy. And thank you, Chad, man. It's great talking to you guys. You guys are amazing.
Hey, we need more guys from the site. So if you want to join, let us know. We'll get you a podcast. We'll get you written content, whatever you want. We'll get it going.
Hey, man. Appreciate it. Hey, whatever you guys want me, I'm on call. You got my number.
All right, Tory. Talk to you later. Be good. All right, so that was a special guest, Tory Muhammed. I think that was a pretty good show, Trey. What do you think?
I thought it was good stuff. Little long in the responses. It's kind of hard to follow. 3 ways. I don't know. Could have done better, but I think it was good. No complaints on my end.
Yeah, it was good for Tory's first time on a podcast. So
can we do some recruiting? I think he needs to join the site. He has some good points,
Yeah, I've talked to him about it.
All right, we'll get him a podcast. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that'll be it for this episode. The first real basketball-centric episode of the year, I guess. Thanks for giving us a listen. Don't forget to check out, follow us on Twitter, @lowfooted for me, @Trey Daubert for Trey. Also, you can follow us Vendetta_media and VendettaSportsMedia.com on Facebook. Go give us a like. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, thedaydrinkers.com. We tap it in the AM. They got all the Vendetta branded stuff as well as their own pretty cool merchandise. Thanks for giving us a listen, and we'll see you next week.